Hi everyone, this is Carlos Caro here. I'm the host of the Free Toaster podcast. Today I'm going to give you a framework for hiring a VP of Partnerships, specifically the 7 traits to look for and the exact interview questions to uncover them. But first, let me share the insight that took me years to figure out. The VP of Partnerships role is completely misunderstood. Most job descriptions make it sound salesy and external facing, when in reality, the best VPs of Partnerships spend most of their time inside the building, working with product, engineering, legal, compliance, analytics. They have to align the entire organization to make the affiliate channel actually work. So the calling on publishers and negotiating deals part, that might be 10 to 20% of the job. The real work here is around influence. And here's how I'd sum it up. The VP of Partnerships controls nothing but influences everything. In that role, you can't control what your partners do. You can't control what your internal teams prioritize. Compare it to a performance marketer who can dial up spend on Facebook or Google or change an ad creative. A VP of Partnerships doesn't have direct levers. As you interview candidates, here's the single question you're trying to answer. Keep this one on the back of your head. Can this person influence without authority, externally with partners and internally across every function? So a quick credibility check here before we keep moving. I've overseen billions of dollars in affiliate marketing spent across 10 years in consumer lending. I was at Credit Karma for 4 years, where I scaled the partnerships team from 3 to 25 people, and 6+ years on the lending side, including my current work at New Market Growth, where we help our clients deploy millions of dollars over the 2+ years we've been in business. All right, let's get into it. Here are the 7 traits, why each one matters, and the specific interview questions you need to ask to get to them. Number 1, deep empathy for the publishing side of the business. This one I think is, it's actually most obvious when it's missed. What it looks and feels like is someone coming in to talk to a platform like LendingTree or Credit Karma or Experian, and they're trying to strong arm their way to results. Do this or else, I expect XYZ, I need you to do this. It's a behavior you might see in certain senior executives in a power position, maybe for too long, and forget what it's like when the other side isn't necessarily bought in on what they're asking for, or when the other side's incentives aren't as directly aligned as they think they are. What I encourage many of my clients to do, and I do this, is I assume and behave as if I work for the affiliate publisher. And I actually believe it's very practically true because the publishers run dozens of offers, sometimes even 50 to 100 offers, and you're coming in to be the 101st offer. You better be incremental. You better believe they can run their business without you. If you're a top 3 publisher, one of the top S&P Fortune 500 type companies that, are one of the giants in the category, then this may not hold. But to everyone else, you're interchangeable with other offers, and you really have to earn your seat at the table. You do that by bringing great customer value, a great marketing funnel. When the publisher runs your ad, it monetizes really well, or it serves an incremental audience that they're unable to serve with some of their other products. So you really are looking to make everything you do a win for the publisher, and bringing that mindset of you working for them is the question I would ask in an interview context on this one would be the following. Tell me about a time when an affiliate publisher wasn't getting you what you needed. What was the situation and how did you handle it? What you're looking for here is tone, word choice. How does this candidate feel the power dynamic sits between them and the publishers? If it comes out clear that they're coming with a service mindset, offering ideas, suggestions that work for both sides, but predominantly selling it in the context of what makes it good to the publisher, a positive sum thinker believes and expects both sides to come away better from any deal. It's not one side taking from another. And there's a little bit of a relationship with the first one on the deep empathy. The antithesis of this could be someone whose first idea is to squeeze every affiliate publisher for every dime in payouts. So if you have a VP of Partnerships, new or old, whose agenda rests on let's go negotiate down our CPAs, this might be an indication that you don't have a positive sum thinker In that specific illustration, the publisher is going to be worse off, the lender is going to be better off. And I think it's a pretty obvious example where the pie doesn't grow. You're really just transferring value from one side to another. The positive sum thinker, in contrast, wants to find the win-win in every situation. And in consumer lending, there's actually three constituents here. It's the consumer, the affiliate publisher, and the lender. When thinking through their strategic initiatives, they tend to apply all three lenses. Is it good for me, the lender? Is it good for the consumer? Because the publisher is going to be putting that lens on everything. That's their customer at the end of the day. And is it good for the economics of the publisher?
I want to pause here for a second to tell you about one of our sponsors, Spinwheel. They've built an API that streamlines your lending application form with just 2 fields. When a customer shares just their birth date and phone number, they can go grab all the information needed to pre-fill their application form. So regardless of what channel you play in, you know that the higher the application rate goes, the lower your cost of acquisition becomes, and the more media you can buy to generate growth. Additionally, they can give you real-time verified consumer credit data and seamless payment processing, which can help you serve customers beyond the initial application. To see a demo, go to spinwheel.io or check out the link in the show notes. It'll hook you up straight with their head of growth.
So the question you're going to ask in the interview, walk me through a deal or initiative you led you were really proud of and why. What you're listening for here is a clear win-win. Did both sides of the agreement win? Was there some creativity to how that came about? Extra credit for do they talk about the third constituent, the consumer? Not just the affiliate publisher and the lender. Those are some of the things you're listening for in that question. Trait number 3, this might be one of my favorite ones. The VP of Partnerships is highly aware of the credit and marketing feedback loop. What this means is you have an individual who's highly aware, almost always they're going to be coming from a consumer lending background, but they realize that every marketing decision, little tweaks on the offer, how you explain an offer, the price of the offer, anything you do in how you communicate something to a consumer not only changes the number of consumers that respond, it actually changes the types of consumers that respond. And if you believe that to be true, then every marketing decision is a credit decision. Now flip it. Let's say credit changed something. They increased price. So this individual realizes that while they did not make the decision to increase price, that decision will have ramifications to marketing because now the price will go up and the number of consumers that respond will be fewer, but they'll also realize that changes the select on the consumer. So like the average applicant quality may come down. So that they're connecting dots between credit and marketing and credit, and then they understand the feedback loops that can get further amplified by publishers. So if you think about a publisher like Credit Karma, or Experian, or LendingTree, or many others in the category who react when a lender changed something, they're going to decide to maybe serve an offer more or less often, or the rank of that offer or placement may change, or the way it's badged. And by badge, I mean how the offer is communicated to the customer, the level of certainty, approval certainty, etc. All of this impacts credit and marketing, and you need leaders well attuned to spotting all these connection points because it's going to help them avoid mistakes in strategy and intent, and it's also going to help them spot opportunities others might miss. So the question you're going to ask your candidate here is, how do credit and underwriting decisions impact your work? Walk me through an example when marketing and credit worked in close alignment. If they struggle with that one, you could give them kind of an opposite one. Walk me through an example where marketing and credit weren't well aligned. And if you could wave a magic wand, how should I have that interaction gone? And what you're looking for is an individual that not only understands that feedback loop, but has had experience negotiating with credit teams to get good outcomes within the affiliate channel. Trait number 4, the candidate can explain complex concepts simply and clearly. This one's important because under the umbrella of influencing without authority, we need this individual getting across complex topics. Some of them are in the intersection of credit and marketing, but the audience needs to hear them clearly and wrap their arms around them quickly, because when that doesn't happen, really hard to influence, really hard to get the outcome you need. And on this one, I'm thinking verbally. The question I would ask is, tell me about a time you had to communicate something complex to a CEO. Because I think sometimes folks assume the CEO needs to hear every detail and nuance. I think it's the opposite. The CEO needs to hear what matters and the context and a couple of headlines or a couple of stories where they can really wrap their arms around the theme and why it matters to both sides, the partner and the lender. So with that question, you're looking to understand how well that got done. Maybe you act as the CEO in the interview and pressure test. You're looking for, are there stories here? Are there metaphors, analogies? Did they eliminate the jargon? Everyone has their own jargon. Every industry has its own jargon. But in the context of partnerships, you can't assume the other side shares your jargon or even knows what you're talking about when you're speaking technically. So we're using non-technical language, story, metaphor. It's clear, it's concise. Trait number 5, they write great PowerPoint decks. And this one seems a little almost too obvious, but I'm hitting this one here with some lived experience where I've made senior hires that were not great at PowerPoint. And what it turned into in my day-to-day life as their manager was writing their external and internal decks for them. A lot of this work, again, back to a role where you influence everything but control nothing. This is not a job where you can get away with messy decks. And the reason a lot of job functions can get away with this is because they have direct levers to control. They can go do things and pull levers directly in the business that drive good outcomes for the business. This role needs other people to do things for them. And because of that, they need to convince people to do things. They need to influence people to do things. And clarity of communication is just mission critical here. It's just going to come up so often. And if you've hired a VP of Partnerships that isn't good at this, odds are their team won't be good at this either, because they won't know what to look for when they're hiring. And then they won't be able to coach and manage their. So you'll have an entire team here that is ineffective at communicating in this medium, which is going to be a big problem for the business. So this one, I'm actually not going to give you a question. There's no question you can ask someone to tell if they make great PowerPoint decks or if they communicate clearly. Here's what I would suggest that you do. Give them an Excel sheet with some data. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. I've seen companies go overboard here and give people data sets with like 1 million records. Don't make it a technical case. It could be as simple as 10, 20 observations with 5, 6, 7, 8 columns. So a table you could stare at on one screen on a laptop. Ideally, it's some real stuff you've anonymized. Maybe it's some reporting within your business. Maybe it's something you're familiar with, you've used in another context. But the data set should represent something meaningful within a business context. You're going to ask them to study the data, look at the trends, and then you're going to ask business questions. You're going to ask them to prepare a short deck to prepare their point of view on those questions. So ask 2 or 3 questions, ask them to walk you through it in a deck. You're looking for the following, that they're constructing a story with the data. They're not just data dumping. I've seen people go into the Excel and just make 4 slides, 4 charts per slide. If I gave them 8 slides, they show up with 32 charts. They're just revisualizing the data in the table. They don't have a narrative. They don't have a point of view. You need a narrative. You need a point of view. You need clear evidence that the writing is clear, sharp. They're extracting the right point from the chart. So showing charts in a way where the thing they want to communicate is clear. You're actually not looking for an exhaustive format where you need the case to be bulletproof. In that context, a 4 to 8 slide deck would be a real challenge to come up with a bulletproof argument. But you want a clear narrative, an internal partner, a senior leader, a chief product officer, a chief credit officer. They would have no problem quickly coming to a point of view on what this person is saying, and then whether they agree or not with the story. That's actually not the point of this exercise. The point is that there's clear storylines and thoughtful use of charts and pictures to make a point.
Let's take a quick break in the action here, because I'd like to introduce you to our newest sponsor, Fintel Connect. They're an affiliate marketing platform that can help connect you to publishers, influencers, and manage your compliance. I'd love for you to check them out. You can find them at fintelconnect.com, Fintel connect.com, where you can connect directly with their founder and CRO.
And what you're going to do is you're going to pressure test this. You're going to ask them questions. You're going to make sure nothing was misleading, but that they're able to defend what's on the page. I've done this in the past across many of the companies I've worked at in a late stage of the interview process. So after they've gone through all your interviews, they've met key stakeholders, or they're a quote unquote finalist for the role, and you give them anywhere between 3 to 7 days to complete this assignment. Ideally, they have at least a weekend. At least they have a weekend between where you assigned it and when they have to present, assuming this person has a full-time job. Craft the case so that you think somebody can do it in 4 hours or less. More than 4 hours, the ask might be too big, and you may have some really qualified candidates pass on your opportunity because they're just unwilling to put in 8 or 12 hours of work on a weekend when they might have a family and a full-time job and lots of other responsibilities. So that's the thing you got to thread the needle carefully with on just how big is the ask. But a senior executive in a VP of Partnerships role, they should be able to put together high quality, highly clear slides in 4 hours or less. Okay, trait number 6. Does this candidate have a marathon mentality? Another way to think about this trait: can they lose for a long time without it impacting their confidence? If you've been in this business long enough, the hit rate in this game can be low. You're going to pitch lots of ideas to lots of people, and the minority of the initiatives you pitch are going to be accepted and deployed. I'm thinking hit rate all the way through. Not just I get an initial head nod from a partner, but the initiative is accepted, fleshed out, delivered, and it delivered the right result for the business. So that funnel, when you look at the hit rate, partner says yes, we deployed it as intended, and it worked. You're sometimes talking single digits percentage points. So that's lower than most sales roles. But one huge win is all it takes to make all the other losses seem unimportant. So one key initiative, one new partnership can single-handedly change the course of a business, especially earlier stage businesses, say Series C or less. And great VPs of partnerships understand this. So you're looking for someone who's very mentally tough, doesn't lose momentum or steam when things doesn't go their way. Highly positive, highly optimistic. That's a critical trait here in this role. And you want to see evidence that they've run their marathons in the past. They're willing to endure to get the right outcome without it wearing down on their morale, optimism, and the way they treat others within the business. So the question you're going to ask: tell me about extended period in your career where it seemed like nothing you were doing was working. How did you handle it? What you're looking for in this question is something that sounds like what I just said. You want them to be highly attuned and aware that the hit rate in this business can be very low, but that it only takes one winner a year or every 2 years. It's almost like a venture capital business, right? You have a power law where one winner can make a lot of other losses irrelevant because that one win is so big. So you want someone with that kind of conceptual understanding. And then you're also looking to hear, hey, extended periods in my career where nothing seemed to be working. You want to get a feeling like they enjoy the process. They enjoy the game. They enjoy all the things required in order to get good results, even when the outcomes don't present themselves as they would like. Those are some of the things you're listening for in that question. The last trait, I call this one an artful collector of information from partners. So the trait, can the person get someone else talking without ever asking a question or seeming like they're interrogating the other person? So why is it important? You're going to need this individual to learn about your partner's needs, motivations, and constraints without making them feel interrogated. When I say partner, I mean external and internal partners. This plays really nicely with external partners. They don't need to be as artful internally. They can be a bit more direct with their questioning. But here I would go to Chris Voss's playbook. His book, Never Split the Difference. That's really a terrific piece that gets into the tactics of how to do this well. Some of the tools here are using mirrors and labels. Mirrors is playing back what somebody said in different words. So just so I understand, it sounds like boom, 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 and you play it back. And then a label is somebody says something and they seem frustrated. It's like labeling that. So it sounds like you're frustrated, explaining why you feel that and letting them talk. Those mirrors and labels get people talking without ever asking a question. I've been on the other side of the table with folks that are just incredible at this. And it's amazing how much I'm willing to talk and share information that I otherwise would not have shared because the other person's so good. at mirroring, labeling, and listening in a way that gets me sharing more. So how do you test for this? There's no real question you would ask here. What you're going to do instead is give them a rope to learn about the role and company. You might frame it up as something like, hey, every interaction you have, you make sure that you give space for them. So this is your time now. Is there anything you'd like to learn about the company, about me, about the role? And those prompts usually will start with some questions, but they won't always. They might say, hey, Carlos, it seems like, based on something you said, it seems like you're concerned with the long-term health of the lending tree relationship. Notice that's more of an observation. But the way that statement with upward inflection almost lands like a question and can get that person to talk a little bit more about that. It also gets the person to know you were paying attention. So otherwise, they should have been demonstrating this throughout the interview process. So you ask an interview question, the best candidates actually can give you signal that they're an artful collector of information just by how they've handled all your questions thus far in the interview. So this one should pop off. Things you want to avoid. You don't want to see them making you feel defensive. So they're asking very direct, pointed questions that actually make you uncomfortable. That's bad. They're doing that to you in an interview. They're going to do that in a high stakes situation. And now they're going to turn a conversation that might have been generative and explorative into a tense, defensive conversation where the other side feels interrogated. So really be careful for the direct, pointed questions that feel uncomfortable. You want a good vibe, a friendly vibe, open-ended statements, labels, mirrors, even questions, the feeling you're trying to avoid. And this should be yellow flag/red flag territory. If you ever feel interrogated or you ever feel uncomfortable, like they were pushing you to say more than you felt comfortable with, that may be a sign that this individual's not the right fit for a VP of Partnerships role. Cool. So that wraps the 7 traits. Again, in summary, this role is that it's highly, highly internal. It looks like an external sales role, and it just couldn't be farther from the truth. It's an internal influence role. There are lots of external dimensions, but you want someone that can influence highly effectively without formal authority. And these 7 traits are going to give you a lens into how well that person can do it. Thanks for hanging out with me today on the pod. If you're not already subscribed to the Free Toaster podcast, please go check that out. Just hit the follow in your podcast player. Also check out our newsletter at thefreetoaster.com. And if you're ever in need of help designing your org, finding a VP of Partnerships, or rebooting your strategy, if you feel like you have an excellent leader but lacks experience in consumer lending and you'd like to up-level your affiliate marketing strategy, I'm here. My marketing agency, New Market Growth, focuses on just this. We've worked with 12 lenders over the last 2 years, managing millions of dollars in spend on their behalf. We'd love to chat if you think we can help. Thanks so much for hanging out today, and we'll see you next time.
If you want to support the show, the number one thing you can do is go to thefreetoaster.com and sign up for our newsletter. You're going to get a couple pieces per week of news, information, insights, and podcasts like the one you're listening to right now at the intersection of marketing, lending, and technology. That's our niche. We don't plan to go outside of that. It's the only publication I've seen out there on the internet that dials into this zone. So if you want to support us, sign up and share it in your favorite Slack channel. This is a quick plug here for my marketing agency. It's called New Market Growth. We do nothing but help fintech lenders accelerate their growth in affiliate marketing channels. Our services are both strategic and operational. And if you want to learn more about how we can help you, find us at newmarketgrowth.com or email me directly at carlos@newmarketgrowth.com.